The massive alien ship appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's orbital space was clear, and the next, a vessel larger than anything humans had ever built hung silently above the planet. Its dark metal surface absorbed sunlight like a black hole, making it look more like a void in space than a ship. Admiral James Stone stood in Earth's Unified Defense Command Center, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of dozens of screens. Around him, the world's best military personnel worked in tense silence. Every defense satellite, every radar system, and every space telescope was pointed at the visitor. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Gray, her fingers flying over her console. "The signal is perfectly clear. They're speaking in English." Stone's eyes narrowed. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing a humanoid figure with pale blue skin and elaborate gold markings on its face. It wore what looked like ceremonial armor, black and gleaming with the same light-absorbing quality as the ship. "People of Earth," the figure spoke, its voice carrying an artificial smoothness that suggested advanced translation technology. "I am Lord Rex, Ambassador of the Galactic Empire. Your world has been chosen for integration into our glorious civilization. Rejoice, for you will be uplifted from your primitive state." Stone exchanged glances with General Thomas Hayes, who stood beside him. Both men had fought in enough wars to recognize an invasion dressed up as diplomacy. "Ambassador," Stone replied carefully, "Earth welcomes peaceful contact with alien civilizations. However, we are not interested in integration at this time. We would be happy to establish diplomatic relations as equals." For several seconds, there was complete silence. Lord Rex's expression shifted from diplomatic politeness to confusion, then to something approaching anger. "Perhaps I wasn't clear," the ambassador said. "This is not an offer. The Empire has chosen your world. Integration is mandatory. Resistance would be unfortunate." Stone felt a small smile tugging at his lips. In all his years of service, he'd dealt with plenty of bullies. They all spoke the same language, whether they came from Earth or apparently the stars. "Let me be equally clear, Ambassador," Stone responded, standing straighter. "Earth is not accepting mandatory anything. We are a sovereign world. If you're interested in peaceful relations, we'll happily discuss terms. If you're not..." He let the sentence hang. Lord Rex's face displayed an emotion that Stone couldn't quite read, something between shock and outrage. "You? Decline? That's impossible. No species has ever declined integration. The Empire spans 10,000 worlds." "Well," Stone said, "there's a first time for everything." The tension in the command center was thick enough to cut with a knife. Every person there knew they were witnessing a historic moment. Humanity's first contact with alien life, and they were basically telling them to shove off. "This is unprecedented," Lord Rex sputtered. "Your civilization hasn't even colonized your own solar system. You have barely mastered basic spaceflight. The Empire's technology is centuries beyond yours." "That may be true," Stone acknowledged, "but we've managed just fine on our own so far. Thank you for the offer, but our answer remains no." The ambassador's face twisted into what could only be described as royal indignation. "You will regret this defiance. The Empire does not take rejection lightly, and Earth doesn't take threats lightly," Stone countered. "Remember, Ambassador, you came to us. We didn't come looking for you." The transmission cut off abruptly. On the main view screen, the massive ship began to move, turning slowly before disappearing in a flash of light that briefly outshone the sun. In the silence that followed, General Hayes let out a long breath. "Well, that could have gone better." Stone shook his head, a grim smile on his face. "Actually, I think it went exactly as it needed to. Lieutenant Gray, get me the Security Council. All world leaders need to know what just happened." He paused, looking at the now empty space where the alien ship had been. "And send out the Alpha Protocol alert. Something tells me our new friends will be back, and they won't be so polite next time. Around the world, military bases went on high alert. Scientists began analyzing the mountain of data collected during the brief encounter. And humanity, for the first time in its history, truly united under a common cause, preparing for what was coming. The game had changed. Earth was no longer alone in the universe, and its first introduction to galactic civilization had just turned into a potential war. But if there was one thing humans knew how to do, it was survive against the odds. In the Empire's central intelligence chamber, Lord Rex paced back and forth, his golden markings glowing with anger. The massive screens around him displayed information about Earth, scrolling endlessly with data collected during their brief encounter. "Impossible," he muttered, stopping to stare at one particular screen. "Master Analyst, explain this again." The old analyst, his skin a deeper blue than Rex's, pointed at the historical data. "My lord, these humans have survived not one, but 2 global wars, and countless smaller ones. They call their most devastating weapons nuclear bombs, and they built thousands of them. But why would any species wage war against itself?" Rex demanded. "That's what makes them unique, my lord," the analyst explained. "Every other species we've encountered unified before developing advanced technology. Humans, they developed while fighting each other. Their technology came from war." The screen showed images from Earth's history, tanks rolling across battlefields, planes dropping bombs, submarines lurking in deep waters. Each image made Rex's frown deepen. "Look at their advancement timeline," the analyst continued. "From first flight to space travel in just 66 years. From basic radio to global internet in less than a century. They advance faster under pressure, faster than any species we've seen." Another analyst spoke up from her station. "My lord, you need to see this." She brought up new data on the main screen. "They have something called mutually assured destruction. Their major powers have weapons pointed at each other, ready to destroy the whole planet if anyone attacks." Rex's eyes widened. "They live like this, under constant threat of extinction. They've done it for over 70 years, she replied. "They call it deterrence. No other species we've encountered has survived such a phase. Most destroy themselves. But humans, they turned it into a strange kind of peace." The room fell silent as more data streamed in. Earth's military bases spread across the planet. Their satellites watching everything. Their submarines hiding in deep oceans with enough firepower to destroy continents. "There's more," the old analyst said quietly. "Their entertainment. They create stories about fighting aliens, thousands of them. Stories where they win against superior forces. They've been mentally preparing for this possibility for generations." Rex walked to the central platform, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the harsh lights. "Show me their current military capability." The screens change, displaying Earth's defense systems, nuclear weapons, advanced fighter jets, cyber warfare divisions. But what caught Rex's attention was something else. "Their artificial intelligence," he said slowly. "It's different from ours." "Yes, my lord. They restricted their AI development after something they call the social media disaster. Their eyes are focused on specific tasks: warfare, defense, prediction. They're not general intelligence like ours, but they're more creative, unpredictable." Rex stared at the data, his confidence from earlier fading. These humans weren't like other species. They hadn't developed in the normal, orderly way. They had grown up fighting, surviving, always preparing for the worst. "My lord," a junior analyst called out, "I found something in their military doctrine. They have a saying: 'We sleep safely at night because rough men stand ready to visit violence on those who would harm us.'" Rex turned away from the screens, his decision made. "Prepare the subjugation fleet. Not the standard force. I want 3 times the usual number." And he hesitated. "Send word to the Emperor. He needs to know what we found." As Rex left the chamber, the analysts continued their work. On their screens, Earth rotated slowly, looking deceptively peaceful. But now they knew better. This wasn't just another primitive world waiting to be conquered. This was a planet of warriors, survivors who had thrived in conditions that would have destroyed most species. A world that had lived under the shadow of its own destruction and emerged stronger. The Empire had never failed to conquer a world it targeted. But as the data kept streaming in, a new thought began to form in the analysts' minds. Maybe, just maybe, Earth would be the first. The massive Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 300 warships, their black hulls drinking in the distant sunlight, moved in perfect formation. At their center, Lord Rex's command ship dwarfed all others, stretching nearly 10 miles from bow to stern. "Begin the approach," Rex ordered. Standard conquest protocol. But Earth wasn't waiting helplessly. In the hidden mountain base of Project Shield Wall, Dr. Lisa Moore watched as red dots appeared on her quantum radar display. Her team had spent the last 3 weeks working without sleep, preparing Earth's surprise for the Empire. "Admiral Stone," she called through the secure channel. "They're here. 300 ships, just like our deep space probes warned us." In the Defense Command Center, Stone nodded grimly. "Right on schedule. How's our little surprise coming along?" "Shield Wall is ready," Lisa replied. "They won't see it until it's too late." Around the world, hidden installations hummed to life. What the Empire didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this moment long before first contact. Decades of watching science fiction movies had done something remarkable. They had made humanity prepare for the impossible. "All nations reporting ready," General Hayes announced. "Chinese Space Force in position. Russian orbital platforms armed. European defense grid online. American fleet awaiting orders." Stone allowed himself a small smile. Who would have thought that their old rivalries would turn out to be their greatest strength? While other species unified early, humans had spent centuries building multiple independent military forces. Now, instead of one defense system, they had dozens. In space, the Imperial fleet moved closer. Lord Rex stood on his command bridge, watching Earth grow larger on his view screen. Launched the first wave. Standard orbital bombardment pattern. 50 Imperial ships broke formation, moving ahead of the main fleet. They were the Empire's elite strike force, ships that had conquered 100 worlds. None had ever failed their mission. "Sir," Lieutenant Gray's voice carried across the Defense Command Center. "First wave approaching orbital range. They're charging weapons." Stone took a deep breath. Everything hinged on perfect timing. "Dr. Moore, is Shield Wall in position?" "Yes, sir. Waiting for your command." "All defense forces, hold position," Stone ordered. "Let them get closer." The Imperial ships entered orbit, their weapons powering up. Lord Rex watched with satisfaction. This was how it always went. A show of overwhelming force, followed by quick surrender. "My lord," his tactical officer called out. "No sign of orbital defenses. The planet appears unprotected." Rex frowned. This didn't feel right. His analysts had warned him about human cunning, about their love of deception in warfare. Check again. Full spectrum scan. But it was too late. "Now," Stone commanded. Dr. Moore pressed her hand against the quantum scanner, and Shield Wall activated. Thousands of hidden satellites, disguised as space debris, suddenly came alive. A web of energy connected them, forming a massive grid around the planet. Before the Imperial ships could react, the grid pulsed. Advanced human AI systems, designed specifically for this moment, took control. The energy web contracted. On his command ship, Rex watched in horror as his first wave of ships lost power. Human technology might be centuries behind the Empire in many ways, but they had focused all their research on one thing: defending their world. "Full retreat," Rex ordered, but the main fleet was already caught in Shield Wall's expanding web. 50 years of secret military research, built by a paranoid species always preparing for the worst, was turning the Empire's greatest invasion fleet into drifting metal. In the Defense Command Center, Stone watched the Imperial ships go dark. Launch our counterattack. All nations, all forces, show them why you don't pick a fight with Earth. The combined Earth fleet rose from hidden bases on the dark side of the moon, fresh and ready for battle. As they approached the powerless Imperial ships, Stone thought about humanity's long history of warfare. All those centuries of fighting each other had taught them one crucial lesson. The best defense isn't just strong shields. It's making sure your enemy regrets ever attacking you in the first place. Captain Maria West sat in the darkness of her stealth ship's cockpit, watching the disabled Imperial fleet drift through space. Her vessel, the Shadow, was the smallest warship Earth had ever built, but it was also the deadliest. Its hull was covered in light-absorbing materials developed for spy planes, making it nearly invisible to both eyes and sensors. All teams in position, her eye combat system reported, ready to begin Operation Thunderstrike. Around the Imperial fleet, 50 other stealth ships waited in perfect silence. They were Earth's secret weapons, built by combining submarine warfare tactics with space technology. Each one carried a crew trained in the art of silent hunting. On the main Imperial command ship, Lord Rex was frantically trying to restore power. How did they do this? He demanded. Their technology shouldn't be capable of this. His chief engineer worked desperately at the controls. My lord, their attack wasn't just an energy web. They somehow uploaded a virus into our systems. It's like nothing we've ever seen. In the Defense Command Center, Admiral Stone watched the battle map with satisfaction. Captain West, you have permission to proceed. Show them how Earth fights. Maria smiled. Shadow Team, weapons free. Execute attack pattern Delta. The stealth ships moved like sharks through water. They had studied Imperial ship designs for weeks, learning every weakness. Now they struck with surgical precision. Quantum torpedoes, designed to pierce Imperial shields, slammed into engine sections and weapon ports. Multiple hits confirmed, Maria reported. Enemy ships cannot return fire. They still can't see us. The Empire had never faced an enemy like this. Their mighty fleet, which had conquered thousands of worlds, was being picked apart by ships they couldn't even detect. Humanity had taken centuries of naval warfare experience and applied it to space combat. Lord Rex watched helplessly as more explosions lit up his fleet. Launch our fighter craft. They can't hide from all of them. Thousands of Imperial fighters poured out of the larger ships, filling space with their numbers. But Earth was ready for this too. Release the drones, Stone commanded. From Earth's orbit, millions of small drones launched. Each one was controlled by a specialized AI, programmed with centuries of air combat data. Every dogfight ever recorded, every aerial maneuver ever invented, loaded into their digital brains. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Their fighters, piloted by crews trained in standard Imperial tactics, faced an enemy that fought with the combined knowledge of every air force in human history. Sir, Lieutenant Gray called out, Imperial fighters are dropping like flies. Our drone AI is predicting their moves before they make them. Stone nodded. They trained their pilots to fight one way. We trained our AI to fight in every way. On the Shadow, Maria watched the drone battle while leading her team deeper into the Imperial formation. Admiral, we're approaching their command ship. Permission to deliver the message. Granted, Captain. Make it clear. The Shadow slipped through the chaos of battle. Unseen and untouchable, it glided up to the massive Imperial command ship, positioning itself right in front of the main bridge viewport. Then, for just a moment, it dropped its stealth field. Lord Rex stared in shock at the tiny Earth ship that suddenly appeared before him. On its hull, written in letters large enough to read from space, was a simple message. This is your only warning. Then the Shadow vanished again, leaving behind a quantum torpedo that blew a hole through the command ship's main weapons array. The battle continued for hours, but its outcome was never in doubt. The Empire had brought overwhelming force, but Earth had brought something more powerful, innovation born from millennia of conflict. As the remaining Imperial ships retreated in disarray, Admiral Stone sent one final message to Lord Rex. Next time, don't bring 300 ships. Bring 3,000. You'll need them. In the silence that followed, Maria guided the shadow back to Earth, thinking about how humanity's greatest weakness, its constant warfare, had become its greatest strength. The Empire had wanted an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, one that had spent its entire history preparing for this moment without even knowing it. Alex Reed sat in his underground bunker, surrounded by holographic screens showing Imperial computer code. The young tech specialist had spent 3 weeks studying the data captured from disabled Empire ships, and what he found made him smile. "Admiral Stone," he called through the secure channel, "you're not going to believe this. Their entire network runs on predictable patterns. They've never had to defend against serious cyber attacks." In the Defense Command Center, Stone leaned forward. "Can you break in?" "Sir, we're already in." Alex's fingers danced across his quantum keyboard. "Their AI is advanced, but it's simple. They've had no cyber warfare, no hackers, no digital arms race. We've spent decades fighting those battles." Stone turned to Dr. Moore, who had joined him after the success of Shield Wall. "How soon can we launch the counteroffensive?" "The captured Imperial tech is giving us everything we need," she replied. "Their faster-than-light drives aren't actually that complex. They just never thought to use them the way we're planning to." Around the world, human engineers were taking apart Imperial technology. What they found surprised them. The Empire's tech was advanced but straightforward. They had developed in peace, their technology evolving without the pressure of constant competition and conflict. "Look at this," Alex said, bringing up new data. "Their communication networks have no encryption. They never needed it, but we've been protecting our data from each other for centuries." In orbit, Captain West's Shadow Fleet was being upgraded with reverse-engineered Imperial tech. But unlike the Empire's ships, these vessels carried humanity's best cyber warfare systems. "First strike team ready," Maria reported. "We've loaded Alex's virus into our launchers. The Empire won't know what hit them." Stone nodded. "Begin Operation Digital Storm." The Shadow Fleet jumped into faster-than-light speed, but not the way the Empire used it. Human engineers had modified the drives, making them work in short, unpredictable bursts. It was dangerous and unstable, but it made the ships almost impossible to track. At the Empire's nearest military base, alarms suddenly blared. Lord Rex, who had been demoted after his failure at Earth, watched in horror as his security systems crashed. "We're being hacked," his tech officer shouted. "They're in everything." Alex's virus spread through the Imperial network like wildfire. Unlike Empire I, which followed strict, logical patterns, this virus thought like a human hacker. Unpredictable, creative, and always looking for new ways in. Earth ships appeared and disappeared around the base, firing their weapons in precisely timed attacks. They fought like guerrilla warriors in space, striking fast and vanishing before the Empire could respond. "Sir," Lieutenant Gray reported to Stone, "Imperial defenses are collapsing across 3 sectors. Their ships are going dark. Their communications are ours." Stone allowed himself a small smile. "Send the message." Across Imperial space, on every screen and holographic display, a simple message appeared. "Your technology is now ours. Your ships will fall. Your Empire will learn that Earth does not bow." In his command center, Lord Rex watched his mighty Empire's technology turn against itself. These humans didn't just copy Imperial tech. They improved it, modified it, made it more dangerous. "My lord," his assistant said quietly, "we're getting reports from other worlds. The subjected species. They're watching what Earth is doing. Some are already talking about rebellion." Rex slumped in his chair. The Empire had ruled through technological superiority, but these humans had done something unprecedented. They'd taken that technology and made it better through the lens of their warlike history. "Send word to the Emperor," Rex ordered. Tell him we gravely underestimated Earth. They aren't just fighting our ships. They're dismantling our entire way of war." As Imperial bases continued to go dark across space, Alex sat back in his bunker and watched his virus work. Humanity had spent its history fighting itself, developing weapons and defenses, always innovating to survive. Now, those skills were paying off in ways no one could have imagined. The Empire had built its technology for peace. Earth had remade it for war. The Imperial Palace shook with the force of another explosion. Outside its golden walls, the streets of the capital world were filled with protesters from 100 different species. Their voices rose in a chant that would have been impossible just months ago. Freedom like Earth. Inside the palace's war room, the Emperor himself stood before his generals. His skin was a deep midnight blue, and his golden markings had lost their shine. "How did this happen?" he demanded. "How did one primitive world cause all this?" Lord Rex, recently recalled to help handle the crisis, stepped forward. "My Emperor, it's spreading faster than we can contain it. Earth has been broadcasting their history to every world in the Empire. They're showing our subjects how they fought for their freedom throughout their history." On screens around the room, reports flowed in from across Imperial space. A dozen worlds had already declared independence. Another 50 were in open rebellion. The Empire's mighty fleet was scattered, trying to maintain control while fighting off Earth's hit-and-run attacks. "The humans don't just fight us directly," one general explained. "They teach others how to resist. They're sharing their military knowledge, their tactics, their technology." In Earth's Defense Command Center, Admiral Stone watched the chaos spread across Imperial space with satisfaction. "Captain West, how goes the Liberation Fleet?" Maria's hologram appeared before him. Her stealth ships had been busy, moving from world to world, teaching local resistance fighters how to defeat Imperial forces. "Sir, the Centauri system just overthrew their Imperial governor. They're requesting Earth advisors to help build their defense forces. Send them what they need," Stone ordered. "And make sure they get the full package. Military training, cyber warfare systems, and shield wall technology." Alex Reed's voice joined the conversation from his cyber command center. "Admiral, you'll want to see this. Our deep space hackers just cracked another level of Imperial security. We found their biggest weakness." The screens filled with new data. The Empire's entire system of control relied on advanced technology that they thought no one could challenge. But they had never faced an enemy that understood warfare the way humans did. Their whole empire is built on the assumption that they're technologically superior, Alex explained. Now that we've proved that wrong, their subjected worlds are losing their fear. And fear was all that kept them in line. In the Imperial Palace, the situation was getting worse. Another general rushed in, his armor scorched from recent fighting. "My Emperor, the Orion sector has fallen. The rebels there, they're using human tactics, fighting from the shadows, striking our supply lines, turning our own systems against us." The Emperor's face darkened. "What do they want?" "These humans, we offered them a place in our civilization." "They don't want a place in our civilization," Rex said quietly. "They want to end it, not through direct conquest, but by showing every world in the Empire that resistance is possible." Across Imperial space, the pattern repeated. Earth ships would appear in a system, share their knowledge with local resistance fighters, and vanish before Imperial forces could respond. Within weeks, that system would erupt in rebellion, using tactics that the Empire had never seen before. "We could offer them concessions," one advisor suggested desperately. "Give them special status, autonomy." "It's too late for that," Rex interrupted. "Earth doesn't want to join us or negotiate with us. They want to free every world we've conquered. And they're succeeding." In Earth's orbital headquarters, Stone received another report of a successful rebellion. Humanity had discovered something remarkable. They weren't the strongest civilization in space, but they were the most experienced at fighting oppression. Every revolution in their history, every struggle for freedom, had taught them lessons they could now share with others. The Empire had spent thousands of years building the galaxy's greatest civilization, but they had never learned the one lesson that Earth knew in its bones. True civilization couldn't be imposed from above. It had to be fought for, built from the ground up, forged in the fires of revolution and resistance. And now, that lesson was spreading across the stars. 1 year after Earth's first contact with the Empire, Admiral Stone stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Assembly Station. The massive space station, built with a combination of Earth and Imperial technology, orbited a neutral star at the galaxy's crossroads. Through the station's giant windows, he could see ships from 100 different worlds coming and going. Some were former Imperial vessels, now painted with the colors of their freed worlds. Others were new designs, created by combining human innovation with alien technology. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Captain Maria West asked, joining him at the window. Her stealth ship, Shadow, was docked nearby, its black hull now bearing the marks of countless battles. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Stone asked, when that first Imperial ship appeared over Earth. "Never," she smiled. "But then again, humans are good at surprising everyone, including ourselves." The door behind them opened, and Alex Reed walked in, his cyber warfare interface now sleeker and more advanced thanks to reverse-engineered Imperial tech. "The last Imperial holdout just surrendered," he announced. "The Centauri fleet convinced them it wasn't worth fighting anymore." In another part of the station, Lord Rex, now serving as the Empire's peace negotiator, sat across from Earth's diplomatic team. The once proud Imperial official looked tired, but oddly relieved. "The Emperor has agreed to your terms," he said. "The Empire will transform into a voluntary confederation. All worlds are free to choose their own path." Dr. Moore, now Earth's chief scientific advisor, nodded. "And the technology sharing program?" "Approved," Rex replied. "Though I must admit, you humans have already shared more innovations in 1 year than the Empire developed in a century. Your way of thinking, it's changed everything." Outside the station, a new ship class demonstrated this change. It combined Earth's stealth technology with Imperial faster-than-light drives, but added innovations from 10 other worlds. The Free Worlds Alliance, as the new organization was called, had already produced more technological advances than the Empire had in its last 1,000 years. "It's because we work together now," Stone explained to a group of alien officers. "Not through force, but through choice. Every world brings its own ideas, its own way of solving problems." In the station's main chamber, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered for the signing of the Galactic Charter. The document, based partly on Earth's United Nations Charter, established a new order in space. "The galaxy needs protectors," Stone addressed the assembly. "Not conquerors. Earth volunteers to help defend any world that asks for it. To teach them to defend themselves, but never to rule them." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The Empire had feared Earth would disrupt their perfect order, and they had been right, but not in the way they had expected. Earth had shown the galaxy a different way to live, where strength came from diversity and innovation, rather than conformity and control. "The Empire feared us because we were different," Maria said to the gathered representatives. "Because we had fought wars, because we had divisions, because we never stopped questioning and challenging everything. They saw these as weaknesses, but they were our greatest strengths." In orbit above Earth, the new Galactic Defense Fleet conducted its first training exercises. Ships from 50 different worlds, learning to work together, sharing their knowledge and experience. Human tactical officers taught alien crews about guerrilla warfare and strategic thinking, while alien technicians helped humans understand advanced physics and energy systems. As Stone watched the proceedings, he thought about how far they had come. The Empire had wanted to force Earth to join their version of civilization. Instead, Earth had shown the galaxy what real civilization looked like: messy, diverse, sometimes chaotic, but always free. "Ready for your next mission?" he asked Maria. She grinned. The Orion worlds asked for help setting up their own stealth fleet. Apparently, they liked what we taught them about submarine warfare tactics in space. The galaxy was changing, evolving into something new. And at its heart was the lesson Earth had taught everyone. True strength doesn't come from conquering others, but from working together, learning from each other, and standing up for what's right. The Empire had tried to conquer Earth. Instead, Earth had liberated the galaxy.